Hi there, this is Bike Guy Consulting, and today we are going to take a look at a new bike that I just received. It is the 2019 Giant Revolt 2. So I ordered this back in September. It just came in a couple days ago. I've had a chance to kind of set it up, configure it for me, put all my kind of accessories on, and really just get a couple of quick rides on it. I am still kind of out of commission in a sense. I can take the boot off and I can get it in a cycling shoe and I can get a little bit of riding in, but obviously not going to put this bike through its paces just yet. But so many exciting things to talk about on this bike. I'm really excited to have it. So Giant totally revamped their Revolt line for 2019. They have their 0, 1, and 2 models. The 0, 1, and 2 all have the same exact frame and mostly the same cockpit. Really what changes are the drivetrain and the wheels. I decided to go with the 2 because I plan to rip off all of this Shimano 105, put on a Ultegra 8000 series Di2 hydraulic drivetrain, and then also swap out the wheels and the handlebars. So really the bang for the buck, $2,000 for an entire bike. Really compared pretty favorably to some of the other frame set only I was looking at, such as the Ibis Haka MX, the open up in a used configuration, things like that. Those frames were $2,000 and up. So this was a huge bargain. And my intentions for this bike are to be probably 80% road training and riding, and then all of the events I do are gravel events. So maybe 20 to 25% gravel. So 2 wheel sets, really kind of handling both types of riding, and I think this is going to be a great bike for it. So number one, it's a 105 group set, and probably one of the most interesting / almost disappointing things about this is that these are not hydraulic drifters. They are a mechanical shifter and brake lever, and what they do is they combine it with a hydraulic caliper. And the way they do that is that Giant sources obviously the inexpensive 105 mechanical shifters, drifters, but then they create this, which attaches and replaces the front faceplate of the stem, and this is your master cylinder for both your front and your rear calipers. You can see how the cable comes in, and it's cable actuated, so if I pull this, you can see that moving. Okay, and the mechanical side of this translates to the hydraulic side, and then you can see out of the bottom come our hydraulic hoses for the rear and the front. So it really just converts it, much like some of the other TRP type products out there, but they're doing it here on the front faceplate instead of the actually at the caliper. Another cool thing, as you see here on front, is this Giant conduct system is what they call it. It comes with these Garmin and other out front pieces. So you can see down here, we have a long bolt and a spacer, which replaces the normal faceplate bolt and allows you to attach, in my case, a Garmin and either a GoPro or a light fixture so that you can get it on there without having to do anything up here on the bar or anything like that. And this is going to work well for me because I'm shifting to an aerodynamic handlebar where this is much too flat and there's no room for an out front mount mounted to the actual handlebar itself. So that'll be pretty cool. It saved me a little bit of money and frustration in trying to configure that. Again, we got 105 out back. It is an 1134 cassette, 160 mil rotors on the front and the back. And this actually shifts with Praxis crankset, which I'm kind of liking. It's got a nice feel to it. It's a 32 small ring, which is going to be 2 teeth smaller than your normal Ultegra that I'm putting on here. So this is actually a 32-34 setup, so really good for some of the steeper climbs and some of these gravel events and rides. But other than that, it's a 50 front ring, I think, actually. Pardon me, 48. So a little smaller in front compared to your 50-34. But not a bad little crankset. It does have the Giant D-Fuse seat post, and it's carbon here, alloy up here, with the the mount. But you can see that it's got a rounded front here, and it's got a very flat back to it. And Giant is saying that that gives you a little more flex here to comply with some of those bumps and other things that you see on there. Probably the biggest sacrifice outside of the hydraulic setup on this is probably the wheel set. I mean, you always get a pretty darn good bang for your buck with Giant, and it's a decent alloy wheel set, but I think this is something that I'm definitely going to have to replace, hopefully with carbon. It's shipping with Giant branded tires, the Crosscut Gravel 1, 40 millimeter wide, and it arrived tubeless setup. Basically, the tires were on there, and the shop, Tony's bike of Milford, Connecticut, is the one that set this up for me, and I purchased it through. They added the sealant and got it all buttoned up and ready to go. Now, also another cool little thing that I added to this is this Giant Ride Sense sensor. You can see I have a magnet on one of these spokes over here, down here, that passes through there, and it gives you a very accurate speed. And then also, inside the frame, there's another sensor inside the chainstay here that you can mount another sensor to the left crank arm, and that'll give you cadence. I'm going to be swapping this out for a Stages power meter with my Ultegra right side crank, so I'm going to let that calculate my cadence, and that allows me not to have to put a sensor on here, which kind of gets ugly because you have to use zip ties to get it on there. But what I like about this Ride Sense is that if you do ride with a Garmin like I ride with my Garmin 510, the speed is never really that accurate. You can see it fluctuate quite a bit as you ride, and especially when you get into really heavily treed areas, you can see that speed really fluctuate. And that's just a little frustration of mine. This will allow me to get a much more accurate speed calculation on my Garmin because the Ride Sense is both ANT Plus and Bluetooth compatible. So that's automatically synced up. It took me about 5 seconds to sync it up with my Garmin, and now my Garmin will show that for the speed. So pretty darn cool. Overall impressions of the bike, again, I really just had a couple of 5-mile rides on it in the neighborhood, a little bit of gravel last night as I was poking around another neighborhood. Immediately, as soon as I set up the seat to my right saddle height and forward aft position, got on the bike, it was a good fit almost right out of the box. So I'm pretty excited once I get it finally tweaked, get my my new bars on there. I'm pretty excited about this bike being kind of a one bike quiver for me. But I'll continue to post some videos on all of the other adventures of swapping out all these parts for Di2. So hope you join me. Thanks.